Hey guys, happy Friday and welcome to season 5 of the Collaboration Conversation, a listener-supported video podcast where Christian artists, entrepreneurs, and friends share about their upcoming projects and how they are using the gifts and the talents that God has given them. To what end, of course, as always, is to share the good news about King Jesus. Today, our very special guest, I am so excited. Very special guest is Patty Lambert. Patty is an actress and my very dear friend. We met last year on the set of Amazing Gracie, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. She plays my mom, and we had such a great time, and we are so excited she's here with us. Patty, welcome.
Hi, guys. I'm thrilled to be here. And oh my gosh.
It's so good
Sarah,
to see your
just
face.
To see your face.
I know.
It's been too long.
I know. It's so weird.
It's wonderful to meet you, Diane.
It's very nice
She's
to meet
here
you
too.
Mom. And then
Mom and mom.
Movie mom.
Movie mom.
Yeah.
That whole filming went by so fast. And also it was a long process at the same time. But it doesn't feel like it was almost, 9 months ago or however long it was. It just, isn't that crazy?
Was it?
Yeah.
Was it 9
we
months?
filmed in May.
Ooh.
I know. By the time this airs, it'll be about a year. So, so it's just, it's crazy to think about, because it, when you're on set, and I know we're going to dive into this as a little off topic, but when you're on set and you just build camaraderie with people that you're like sharing your soul with, like, that's what you have to do when you're acting, is you just have to be so vulnerable. There's so much vulnerability there. And so I just feel like you and I were kindred spirits right off the bat. It was so special to work with you, and I'm so happy you're here.
I'm so happy to be here. And I've heard somebody say this before, but these movies, they're like a summer camp.
Mm-hmm.
You go in not knowing what to expect, not knowing most of the people, and then you spend weeks or months and you leave. You've made like the best friends.
I know.
So thank goodness for you, Instagram and direct messaging. We don't have to be pen pals, through the mail, but it is. It's like a summer camp.
It totally is. And you put your blood, sweat, and tears into it, and all your energy. And it's a very special bond that you get when you're in a movie with somebody. And, have to do such hard scenes. I was thinking about this yesterday that it was you and me basically the first few days of filming.
Right.
Eduardo was there as well. But we had like a lot of our really hard scenes right off the bat. So, I loved how you just jumped right in there with me, and we were like, let's just go for it. And so it was awesome.
I had to pull in my mean mommy.
Yes.
tiny little portion of mean mommy in my life.
No, you had to completely make it up.
So there's a mean mommy in there.
Well, it's really funny when they were going through the casting process, and I think we had seen her picture or something.
Yeah.
I thought, oh no, she's too young.
Yeah,
she's not going to be able.
She was a young mom.
Play your mom. Oh yeah, you did great.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's such a sweet. We've talked about this on set, but it's, as the writer, at some point I have to like put that hat off, right? I have to be like, this is, the houses don't look the same as the way that I envisioned it, or the set looks different, or whatever. But like, this is the cast, and I just trusted you guys implicitly with every moment. I was like, they've got this. I had no anxiety about, is this going to land? None of that. It just was very relaxing. It was very refreshing to just be able to focus on
Sarah,
acting at the time.
I mean, it does have a lot to do with the writing.
Well, thanks.
My dear. And so it wasn't very hard to to go forth and to project the message you wanted to project. And I think I may have even said that. I don't even know if it was in the audition or maybe it was in the very beginning when we met.
Yeah.
But a lot of the responses and the script, there were things that I would have said.
Nice.
So it was very easy to get into the role, and I felt like you spoke like I speak.
Oh,
so
good.
Maybe it was
written for you. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
That's a little daunting.
Totally. No, it's so true. And so I can't speak highly enough about you. And so I just wanted to start us off with that, because you're very, very much loved by me.
Well, and one of my favorite scenes in the trailer is when you guys are at the kitchen or the dining room table. Boy, you just play off each other so well. You could just see the tension. Yeah. As the will's being read or what.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Whatever's going on there. That was.
Stop it, Lucy.
Stop it.
It was great.
Maybe sometimes it was too easy.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Maybe easy, but good fun. Good fun.
That's awesome. Well, as we are just meeting, but as we get started, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about you and your family.
Sure. Well, I'm a mother of 3 boys. Well, I guess they're more men than they are boys at this point. Adultish boys.
Yeah.
They're 26, 24, and 20. So
wow.
They aren't boys anymore. I've been married for 30 years.
Wow.
Coming up this June.
Congrats. That's so exciting.
Chris, my husband and I were just talking a couple of nights ago, and we knew that was coming up.
Right.
And we thought, 30 years already? That's nuts. Especially nowadays, it seems like, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a wonderful ride, and it just gets better. So I was born in Boston, not there for very long, but I was raised in a small town outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. And I went to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Go Hills. I organized my life around various things in college. I've always enjoyed doing theater and drama and that type of thing. And so I didn't want to major in drama in college, but something that was somewhat close was speech communications. And it had an emphasis on oral interpretation of literature. So we not only analyzed stories and books and such, but we often performed them. So that was cool. One way that I could, still perform every year or every semester. And even at poems, we did that. So it was a lot of fun to do those classes. I was in between that and I had a minor in philosophy. So I took a lot of courses that were in ethics, philosophy of legal argumentation and ethics and legalities. So I was kind of in between what I wanted to do do I want to go to law school? My brother was in law school and he's brilliant and I look up to him. But I wanted to go out and be in film because I've never done film before. So, because I remember it was senior year and I had to make that decision. Do I study for the LSAT or do I just go for it and go out to Hollywood? Talked to mom and dad about it, and it was a hard no to Hollywood. They said nope.
Absolutely not.
And the good girl that I was, which is kind of funny because I was somewhat of a rebel, but okay, I didn't have their support doing that, and I started, cracking the book for the LSAT. And I remember I was in the underground library. And my girlfriend, who I roomed with for a number of years, she came over to me. I was studying the LSAT, right? This book. And she said, I'm going to London next semester. She said, come with me. Close the book. I was like, okay.
Let's go.
So I thought I could always go back.
Yeah.
If I wanted to do law, I could always do that. But this chance of graduating, going off to London, finding a job. So I did. And mom and dad supported it. And they gave me, this is the interesting part. So they gave me $500 and they said, that's it. Wow. So you make your life the way you want to. You get $500 to start off. In other words, you got to find a job.
Yeah.
And I will, this is something that I say to the boys. And it's one of those things, when you always get together with your family, there are always these stories that come up
every time.
The same story. And I said, well, I lived in London. Mom, did you ever live in London?
With $500?
Yeah. And the last week, I remember very clearly having this brown bread and I would toast one piece of bread and put butter on it. And I swear I lost 10 pounds in 1 week because I didn't have any money to buy any groceries.
Right.
And it was towards the end of that week that I did get a letter, because back then it was a letter, and I got a job.
Nice.
So I was selling, I worked for a publishing house, and I was selling advertising for Macworld magazine.
Ooh.
So I was there for a while.
Nice.
So it was cool because I could travel around the UK and sell advertising and such for the pages.
That's cool.
That is cool.
Yeah. To do.
So then you come home?
Yes.
Well, first of all, how long were you there?
Yeah. I was there for just like a year.
Okay.
Just a very short stint. And it was time for me to come home because I did kind of get a bit homesick. I missed the space we have here.
It's a little cramped over there.
Yeah. And I mean, I loved going to West End, and I saw Les Mis. I saw the original cast of Les Mis 3 times. It was my absolute favorite
amazing
musical of all times. But anyway, so I came back and I did my mother was a teacher, and I thought, well, maybe I'll do that, because I didn't feel pulled to go to law school at that point. I kind of saw the world.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to see more of it, I think.
Yeah.
So while I was figuring out what I wanted to do, I taught 5th grade for a teacher that had been gone for about 6 months or so. And they asked me to stay, and they were going to take care of my schooling so I could get a teaching certificate. And they asked me to head up their drama program. But it was 5th grade, so it was middle school, 5th through 7th. I thought that it was exhausting.
Oh my gosh.
Being a teacher.
It's hard.
No idea. I mean, okay, we're performers, right? We love to be on stage, and you are performing 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
And entertaining and having to be on. It truly was, it was exhausting. And I thought, I can't do this. I mean, my mom did it for 30 years. I don't know how she did it.
Yeah.
So, and unfortunately, it wasn't very fiscally, rewarding.
Yeah.
And that still was I hate that at this point.
Yeah,
still.
absolutely.
There are teachers that are raising our children.
Right.
And I feel like they should be paid like the basketball players, but don't get me on that.
We can talk about it
anyway.
if you want.
Right. So from there, I had so this point I was about in my early to mid 20s, and I had a phenomenal job working for the national organization of the National Kidney Foundation. I was in development with them, and my job was to go around the country and to teach the state affiliates of the National Kidney Foundation, how to run and organize a charity golf tournament. So in order for me to do that, I had to put one on at 24, 25 years old with celebrities in North Carolina and Charlotte. And I authored the actual how-to booklet. Once I did it.
That's so cool.
It was a success.
Yeah.
It was. Then I traveled.
Yeah.
And, so it was during the time when we didn't have GPS. We didn't have Waze. Mm-hmm. And the things that I learned, I really feel between London and that first job, having to, fly by myself and find the rental cars, go find the address. I remember one time I was headed to Oregon. This is very cool. Because Nike was one of our, I guess, can I say that? I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
But Nike was one of our sponsors at the time. This was called the Cadillac Invitational.
Okay.
It was a big deal. They were one of our sponsors. And so I went out to meet with the head of marketing at the time. So I fly into Portland and I drive to Beaverton, Oregon, where their major campus is. And it was incredible. It was Google before Google was ever there.
Yeah.
They had gyms and cafeterias and such. But I was told that I needed to go towards the shore, towards the coast, because I had asked directions or something. They said, go towards the coast. So here I am. Yeah, I'm going to get the highway, and whatever highway it was at the time. I said, okay, east, because I'm going towards the coast. I'm driving. And then it's like, there were signs from Mount Hood. And it's like, what the heck? East Coast. I was from the East Coast. They said go
to the
towards
coast.
The coast.
They meant west.
And not the West Coast. And I took the highway east instead of west. Anyway, I made it on time, but that was just one of those, little things that you learn.
Yeah.
Lesson learned.
Absolutely.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but it was an incredible experience for somebody at that age to do.
Yeah.
And to be entrusted with. And then they moved everything up to New York. And I had just been married, just recently had been married, and wanted to stay here in Charlotte. So I did some work for a large bank, was a personnel manager for a large bank here. And then I had my first son. And then I really had a job.
Right?
Yes,
we decided for me to stay home.
Yes.
Both of us made that decision, and that was quite a job.
Yes, so, absolutely.
Right.
So cool. You're a Jane of many trades. The teacher story is so interesting. I had almost the exact same thing. I can't believe that we haven't talked about this. I did a stint teaching K-8 theater while their teacher was on maternity leave, but I don't have a teaching degree, but I have a theater degree. So it was okay for me to be like a substitute just in perpetuity. And it was the worst 3 months of my life. I will never do it again. And bless my dad, who has been a teacher for 30 years. I don't get it. I don't understand. Like, I did not get that gift, and that's okay. But I didn't get that gift. I didn't get the gift of teaching.
It takes a special soul.
Very special soul.
My mom was K through 9.
Okay.
But most of her years, she taught middle school, and she loved it. She loves middle school kids. I mean, that's
what's to love. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
We joke, since my husband's a middle school teacher, we joke that when the kids got to middle school, I handed them off to him. And then when they finished and they were going to high school, I took them back.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't do
That's fair.
Don't do middle school.
No.
And he does it all day. It's just crazy.
Well, you mentioned that you had done drama. You didn't want to major in it. You knew that you maybe wanted to go to Hollywood. So acting was obviously something you loved early on. How did you get from your firstborn to jumping into acting? How did that happen?
So there was something about when mom and dad said no to Hollywood, I thought, okay, go on. And to tell you the truth, I never thought about it being an opportunity for me. There's something strange in my brain that thinks you have to be 24 and blonde to be an actress. And so it just never occurred to me. There were times, definitely, I would sit in the theater with my husband and I'm watching the screen thinking, I could so do that.
I could totally do that.
And I just felt it. And it almost was painful at times to watch the movies because I felt like that ship had sailed. And so I had my oldest, and then 2 years, little under 2 years, I had my middle son. And then a few years after that, I had my youngest. So my life was volunteer work. I spent a lot of time in the children's schools, a lot of time at church, taught Sunday school, did a lot of commissions and leadership roles there and such. And then I guess to fast forward, because there were times when my husband knew that, I enjoyed theater in the past. And so why don't you do the community theater? That's not possible. For me, it wasn't possible because, usually community theater is from 6:30 p.m. to 11:30 at night.
100%.
I had 3 kids at home. So that wasn't
an option.
That wasn't anything that I was going to do. So there were 2 things that prompted what I'm doing now. It was, one was in 2018, I was asked to participate in the Charlotte Ballet's Dancing with the Stars gala. And what they do is, and I'm not a dancer, ladies. I'm not a dancer. I'm a performer.
Yes.
But not a dancer.
Okay.
And also I'm not a singer. So I've always said that if I could sing, I'd be a rock star.
Yeah.
I love to, to sing, but I can't sing. So anyway, what they do is the Charlotte Ballet is they ask 6 people in the community to train with their professional dancers. And these 6 people aren't people who would normally dance. They weren't people who were cheerleaders in high school or dancers or such. They're, civic leaders and, CEO of the hospital and stuff like that. So the idea is that you're bringing people to the theater that are wanting to kind of laugh with you. I don't want to say laugh
at yourself, but with you.
Because the very first one that I went to was the year before. And the reason why I went is because one of my best friends was doing it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have got to see her do this. And that's what brings people in. That's what brings them all to the theater and raise money. So the deal is, and I said no many times to it, just no. But I actually finally had to lay it out in front of God.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, and I've done this before with vestry at our church. Vestry is It's like at the elders or board of directors or whatever at our church, and it's an elected position. But you put yourself in a place where you're either accepted or you're not accepted. You're voted, you're not you're not voted for. And both, the vestry and the Dancing with the Stars situation, knowing I'm putting myself out there, and there's a high probability of failure.
Yeah.
So I feel like when I have those types of situations, when it's my ego that is brought into it, I have to put it in front of God and just say, if this is meant to be for me, if I'm supposed to serve on the vestry, Lord, then it'll happen.
Right.
If I am not, then it's meant to be. It's not my time to serve.
Mm-hmm.
So with the Dancing with the Stars, I said, okay, if this is a way that I can raise an extraordinary amount of money for the organizations that I love. And the deal with the ballet is that they take half of what you raised, and then you pick the charity that you are most involved in, and they take half.
Nice.
So one of the organizations that I'm involved in here in Charlotte is called Arts Plus, and it's all about providing accessible arts education to all. So for people who may not be able to afford it or don't have the wherewithal, there's scholarships and funding and so forth for music and art lessons.
That's awesome.
Because I think that's something that's changed my life and my children's lives.
Of course.
But anyway, so I did this whole trained for 4 months, Dancing with the Stars. And my partner was Juwan. He was absolutely amazing. I was able to pick my music. So it was everything from Barry White to Meatloaf to AC/DC.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
It was a lot of fun. But the most terrifying experience I've ever had in all my life. I mean, my knees were shaking. You just go out there and everything that you learned, I mean, everything was counted. I thought you could just dance and sing kind of to yourself and remember. No, everything was on 8 counts. Yep. And so you're doing that. Anyway, at the end of the day, I won, and Juwan and I won the People's Choice. Yay! I mean, the Judge's Choice Award. So we won the competition.
Amazing.
And we raised over $300,000 just for ours, and the overall was $1.2 million.
Oh my!
So
God.
it was. It was amazing situation, and we broke records. And at the next day, when everything, and I was basking in the glory and so excited for Arts Plus and Charlotte Ballet and everything that happened, I had such, of course, a sense of relief, but also this feeling of, if I can do this, okay, I can do anything.
Yeah.
And it was 6 months later so we're getting to the, sorry, I'm so long-winded.
No, that's great. No,
the question,
you're setting
Sarah,
the stage.
Yes. So what set the stage for what I'm doing now? So about 6 months later, I was talking to a donor/friend. We were having a cup of coffee at Panera. And we were discussing the past few months and our interests. And she had to get up and go. And I said, by the way, what is it that you do? And she said, well, I'm an actress. She's my age. And I was like, how the heck are you an actress in Charlotte, North Carolina? What?
Right.
And she said she was in Homeland, and she did some commercials in Richmond and Atlanta. And that was the first, I was at that point 50, 51, early 50s. And it was the first time I've ever thought, oh, there are moms and older people who need to be in commercials and theater. Wait. So she told me that, she had been studying film from somebody who comes up from Atlanta and Charlotte. And she gave me his name, and I looked him up, and I joined his class, and I started taking lessons from him. It was like a class for about a year and a half. I still take lessons, but that was 2000, fall of 2018. So it was about a year and a half. And then the pandemic hit. And so all of us I was learning the business, and we had to get the softbox lights and learn how to video, self-tape.
Yes, all the self-tape things.
Yeah. And so I just made a profile in Actors Access and Backstage and some of the others. And I just kept on submitting. And lo and behold.
And it worked.
Sandra Martin called me. And so I found myself going to Kansas City, and I was in my first movie in June of 2020, and it was My Sweet Holiday. And then it aired on Lifetime just on the actual Christmas Eve. So it's like, gosh. What?
Oh, so, neat.
And since then, it's been a wild, wonderful ride, and I've never been happier in all my life. I've never been happier.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. Because I mean, you just booked, and then you booked, and then you booked, and you kept booking. She's like, ooh,
kind of crazy.
I did that.
Kind of crazy.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, that's totally a God thing, right? That's just, he's so good.
Yeah. Oh, amen.
It was meant to be. Yeah. Amen.
That's very cool. Well,
so
is there any projects that you guys have worked on together?
Yes, of course. So we had the pleasure, it's just not quite enough, the distinct pleasure of working together on Amazing Gracie. And it was just, we talked about it earlier, but I just would love to chat with you about, from your perspective, not how it went, that's not what I mean, but just like the process and where you were where you were, not physically, but just like emotionally and in your career, when we kind of got to touch base and have our audition via Zoom and all those good things.
Right. I think there was a few months in between my last movie and then just auditioning for Amazing Gracie, because we all know, I mean, all of it really is out of our hands.
Yeah.
We put it into the ether world, right? And then we might look like
pray.
Somebody's ex-wife or something, and they're like, no. So there's only so much you can do.
Totally.
But we do. We pray and we surrender, and if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. So, I remember when we had the callback, and I guess at that point, you guys had already said yes to me.
Yes. And
there was some chemistry read that we needed to do with a couple of people. And, everybody was great on the chemistry read. But I remember, I'm sure you remember
of course.
this, but there was one particular person.
Yes.
Can I say it?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So when you said, and our next person that you'll be reading with, Patty, is Eduardo. And I thought, there's only one Eduardo.
There's only one.
In the Southeast, I think. And I had just been on an HVAC commercial with him down in Atlanta.
That's so
funny.
So
when he popped up, and I was like, oh my God, we were both. Hey.
I know. Me and Micah, and they're like, oh, cool. They know each other.
There is chemistry.
Yep.
So that was really neat.
It was very cool.
I think by the time we got to set, it just, between that chemistry read and seeing you on Zoom a few times, Jody and Micah, it was like old home week already.
Totally. Oh, absolutely. And it was just such a good time. It was like the best 3 weeks.
It was. And the love and the support from the beginning of the day to the end of the day for all those weeks, it was incredible. Yeah. And I haven't had, I know people say that there are horrible experiences on stage and, on sets. I haven't had them yet. So
good.
Knock on wood,
right? I'll knock on myself because that's my last name. But Nick did that on our first date, and I had no idea what he was doing. I was like, "What is he doing?" And then eventually, I got it, and he's funny. Anyway, yes.
And now you've taken.
And now I've taken the joke. Yes, I have to. Yes. So anyway, yes, it just, with the chemistry between you and I was such a great fit. I remember we got off your call back before we had offered it to you. And he was like, well, okay, well, that's it. And I was like, all right, yeah, I guess so. So it's amazing how God knows. And I don't want to say I forget that, but sometimes I get so wrapped up in my timing and my process and what I think it should be. And I just have to remember that he's got it. Like, he had cast this before I was born. You know what I mean? Like that kind of a thing. And so he's the ultimate casting director, and I'm grateful for it.
Sounds like a book.
I know, it does sound like a book.
Isn't that the truth, though? Sometimes we do forget.
Yeah.
And I think we're human.
Totally.
So that's okay.
Yeah.
But, I have found myself before just being, I enjoy myself. I enjoy sitting down the very beginning of the day in the morning when the house is quiet. I always have since the kids were babies. I would have to get up at 5 before they got up, sometimes 4:30.
Right.
I don't do that now. But there are days and weeks sometimes where because I have a certain place, it's like a little cushion on my gold couch where I will sit. And sometimes I'll just walk right by and I'm like, get you later. Okay, I'm going to be over there in a little bit, God, And then I'll find that a day, or 2, 3, and things start spiraling.
Yeah.
And I think, what is wrong? What is going on in my life? And then it's like, get back to centering with God in the morning and having that space and surrendering. And so when you get on a set, I mean, we do get that. We get in a mode.
Yeah.
But Sarah, there was just the first few scenes that we taped together, I just felt like I'd known you all my life.
Oh my gosh. Totally. 100%. It was crazy. It was it was like an immediate kindred spirit type thing.
Right.
And, you get some of that over Zoom. And I was like, oh no, this is going to work. I knew that it was going to work. But then once we actually got to meet in person, I was like, oh no, this is going to work. Like WERK, not just ORK. I just knew. And so it was such a special experience.
And the tears. I mean, there were times that you and I had tears that were.
I know.
They weren't fake.
They weren't.
There was no Visine or whatever.
I know.
In our eyes. I mean, it was just.
We were there and we were in the moment. And it takes a very special connection to be able to do that so quickly. I mean, like side note, there's like this saying, I don't know if it's a saying, but I have heard like the first 2 days of filming are washes. You should, in theory, always schedule those first 2 days scenes to happen again, or to have time for them to happen again later, because everybody's getting to know each other. Your actors are finally meeting. The crew is settling in. And so we had filled those first 2 days with just about as hard of scenes as we were going to have.
Yeah.
I mean, your character's massive, major turning point in the whole entire movie was the first scene of the whole shoot. I mean, I didn't schedule that. Don't blame me. But do you know what I'm saying?
Thanks, Micah.
I know, right? But so for you and I to be able to for me to trust you and for you to trust me and for us to be able to go there so quickly because it needed to happen. Like we didn't have the time to wait and reshoot it again later. It was such a God thing. It was very cool. It's something I will always treasure. And it's, it's set the bar. Like everyone else has to rise to meet that now because that's what awesome. I'm going to expect from everybody. So anyway, no, it was so much fun. I wanted to ask you about your character because you are just so not like your character in any capacity. And so I wanted to ask you just a little bit from an actor to actor process. Like, what is your process? I said actor to actor, whatever. What is your process? What was your process like? Not necessarily, take that question for whatever it means to you. Everyone has their own thing, but just how did you get into that character and how did you find yourself in something that is just so not like you?
Right. So, wow. Well, first of all, Sarah, when you
Big
say
question, sorry.
that a lot of it has to do with the storyline, right?
Sure.
The storyline and the writing, of course. And my process, I don't know if it's right or wrong because I've only been doing this for a few years.
There's no right or wrong.
But I do like to, of course, I read the script first, but I like to get the words down. It's really important for me to memorize first, and I will record it on this little app that I have, and I will walk all around the neighborhood, and I will keep on. People probably think I'm crazy because I'm
just saying lines out loud,
forever talking and back and forth. But I think people know that nowadays with earbuds. So, but I have to have that down, so I'm not thinking about the script and the words.
Sure, yeah.
And I think some people don't worry about that as much, but I have to. That's how I work.
Yeah.
But I do think that we have to find something in ourselves that we have to bring ourselves to the character for it to be authentic. Yeah. And for it to be believable. And this one, my wonderful coach, I'll shout the name out there if I can.
Do it.
Lon Baumgardner, he's in Atlanta, and he's the one that comes up with Film Actor Studio. But he's taught me everything that I know about film.
Sure.
Even though I had the other stuff, stage is much different. Life there is much different.
Oh, yeah.
So particularly with Amazing Gracie, okay, I'm a mom, easy. I'm a mom in real life,
Yeah.
But then the thought of you, I don't want to give away spoilers, but the thought of you leaving me at a time that was so crucial in my life. I needed you, and you left, and I was bitter about that.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this as a character.
Yeah.
Don't get mad at me, Diane.
She's going to get her.
I'm fine.
She's good. She's enthralled.
I think that you do, though. You read the story, and what would I do in that situation?
Yeah.
And it wasn't a lie for me to be mad about it. But hopefully because I haven't seen the whole movie yet.
I know.
But hopefully some of it comes through. The bitterness had to be there. And there were times that I drew some of the difficult times, because I don't want to give away the movie.
No, so you're good.
I'm being careful with certain scenes. But there was this particular time that I really needed to feel great sadness, remorse, just gut-wrenching sadness. And I always remember this. There was a picture on the mantle of who was my son-in-law in the movie, my movie son-in-law.
Yeah.
And I was looking at him because he looked a little bit like my oldest son. And I know what happened to him in the movie. And I pictured that.
Oh.
And so that's, you go into depths. And I have a friend whose son was, who died by suicide. And it's only been a couple of years, and he was like my fourth son.
Wow.
So I know this is going dark, and I'm sorry, but
That's okay.
You pull these things from the depths of your soul, and you're just there. You don't see the cameras, you don't see the lights.
Absolutely.
I remember Micah's wife coming to me after one particular scene, because afterwards I was like, whoosh.
Yeah.
I was crying because it was a release. And she asked me, she's like, "Are you okay?"
I'm great. Thanks for asking, but I'm fine.
Collect myself.
Yeah.
Get the mascara.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
Yeah. I think sometimes people don't know where sometimes we have to go when we have to get there, when we have to get to that emotional space to bring authenticity and vulnerability to the character and what's really happening to them. And that's hard. I mean, we've taken classes, and when we have to get there in class, right? So the cameras are rolling, but they're metaphorical cameras. I mean, they're real cameras, but it's not for a project. But like you have to, I was like, how do I leave this here? Because that's a big thing. So for me, I have to take a walk. I usually call the person if it's a specific person that I had to use, or think about. I'll usually call them, and they have no idea. But I'm just like chatting with them, checking in, on the way home from set or something, I'll call them just to hear their voice and know that they're okay, or, whatever it is. So what is it? How do you get out of that? How do you get back to reality without letting such a dark thing? Because for me personally, you and I have talked personally about my mental health issues, and I can get stuck in that. I can kind of get stuck in something that's not true, right? Because I believe it. And for those 20 minutes that we're rolling, I believe it to my core.
Yeah.
So how
100%.
Yeah. So how do you get out of that? Do you have a process for that? Any hints or tips for me and other actors?
I mean, truly, to get into it, I think what I think, and I'm there.
Yeah.
And like I said, there was that one moment that it was so raw, painful, that I did have that release of crying afterwards.
Yeah.
In the other room. But I don't know if this is part of, I tend to be, I don't want to say Pollyanna, but I kind of tend to be positive. And, that it's all going to work out. And so I truly believe that. And I have this, I've always felt this way, that sometimes feel like people are like, oh, give me a break, but it's going to be okay. Okay, we're going to pray about this. We're going to put it on the table. I just do. So I think when I leave these situations, and I have to say though, Sarah, this was the first movie that I've had to go that deep and painful.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I'm stumbling over the answer because I remember when I would leave.
Yeah.
I would leave.
Good.
I would, go back to the hotel because I opened my eyes and you're there and you're Sarah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it had to do with our rapport off of camera.
For sure.
And on camera, but it's just, you were like that too at the end. I remember you put your earbuds in.
Yeah.
And I don't know what you listen to, whether it's music or script. I'm not sure what you listen to, but you listen to something to get in.
Yep.
But I do feel like, when it was over, I didn't know that you were going in the car and calling the people you were drawing from. I love that.
Yeah.
I just kind of let it go.
Yeah. I'm glad that it's clear then that you have a healthy relationship with how you get into character. Maybe mine's a little less healthy, but yeah, I just feel like I have to hear their voice. It sometimes the conversations can be 20 seconds. Hey, I just wanted to see how your day was, or just checking in. I just want to hear their voice, and then I can let it go. And then I'm like, okay, cool. I can go on with the rest of my day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, the way I wrote it, you don't have a lot of like happy, cute scenes with Selena that I had. She and I had all this crazy fun cracking up and improvising. And so I know we didn't get to do a ton of that on this movie. Well, just wait, because I'm sure it'll come. I know. But what do you have any, other than having to be really sad, do you have any fun memories?
Yes. Yes, I do. And one of them was it Charlie?
Baby Charlie. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He just is the sweet.
Amazing.
He really was. He was like the perfect angel for this movie. He plays baby Jack, for those of you.
His name's Jack. I don't know what you're
No, I know, but he plays the baby. He was so great.
Yeah, I've never seen a baby. I mean, I've been around plenty of babies with nieces and nephews. And I've had 3, never seen a baby that good for that long.
Right.
So that part is, I just remember connecting the fact that I was a grandma, which was kind of funny.
Yes.
But I played that a grandma before, not a grandma, I guess a mother of a baby. But he was a joy to interact with on set. And there was a particular, I don't know if I've ever told you this. There was a particular scene, I think, well, now that I don't know if it's at the beginning of the movie or the end, because you know how we kind of go backwards sometimes with that. But we were at the dining room table. I think it was the beginning. No, maybe it was then. You'll know, writer.
Yep, I will.
I had to say it was a prayer.
Yeah.
It was just, dearest Lord, look over us as we, it was just a typical blessing of the meal. And it just felt so cool and normal. And because, that's what I've done forever, however many days of my life,
right?
With the boys around the table. And I don't know why, that's something that just struck me just a second. But I remember just feeling at home.
Oh, good.
And there's something about maybe praying on set like that.
Yeah.
That just brings the Holy Spirit into where you are, into the present moment.
Absolutely. Sweet.
So
I love that. I don't want to spoil anything, so I won't say where it is in the movie, but there's a very sweet shot of you and baby Jack, and he's sleeping and you're just holding him, and it's the sweetest thing. So when you're talking about you and baby Jack, that's all I can picture is you.
Okay. Do you want to know something? You want to know deep down what's happening while I was doing that?
Yes.
Or what I was
you were
feeling?
like, do I want another one?
No. I've been there. I've done that, and I'm good.
Yes. Okay.
I love the older boys.
Yes.
I love them coming to visit. I love my little empty nest life very much so. I broke my wrist back in the spring.
That's right.
I did back with, once you do this Dancing with the Stars charity thing, you come back every year and you open up with all the other alumni.
Okay.
And I just tripped. And I fell. I was in the back. A lot of people didn't see me.
But I remember you coming to send you had a big scar. Yeah.
So I still have scars. A lot of them they're going away because I had surgery the day after and plates put in. Anyway, I wasn't fully healed, and I didn't have a whole lot of strength. And I remember, Jody and I were working on the derma, whatever it was, trying to hide the scars. But somebody like you or somebody handed him off, and I was like, ooh. Don't drop them.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Yikes.
Down for a while. I thought that was better. But I think, and Micah or somebody had asked if I could switch him over to the other side. And I was like, whoa.
And no one is thinking she has 2 just recently broken wrists. Oh my gosh. Bless.
Anyway, so I'm glad that you thought it was sweet and endearing.
It looks really, really sweet on camera. So that's, if you've been losing sleep over that this whole time, I can put you to rest on that. It's a very sweet shot. Well, I'm so excited for people to see it. When this episode airs, it is released. I'll put all of the information on Amazing Gracie in the description, as well as trailers to all of Patty's films and where you can find them. So be sure to check that out. And yeah, we're very excited for you guys to see Amazing Gracie. It was very sweet, such a fun film. It's a really about forgiveness between a mother and a daughter. I mean, there's a lot of silly things that go on, and it's a comedy, so obviously there's funny moments, but it's just a sweet story about a mom and a daughter reconnecting and forgiving each other. And so it's just, I loved it, and I love that.
Fantastic, Sarah.
I love that we got to do that together.
Natural.
Oh,
I
thank
do
you.
too. And truly, I mean, the writing, your acting is incredible.
Well, I feel the same way about you.
Well, it's just. I got one big love fest.
I know, all day, every day.
That's awesome. Well, let's transition just a little bit. For those of you who might not know, our podcast is about talents and gifts, and not only figuring out what they are, but kind of naming it and claiming it, but giving God the glory for the things that He has thought about before we were even born. And we call it Project Brickworks because we believe that He has given each of us a gift. He has given each of us a brick, and we use our talents and gifts in collaboration with God to build that brick, and He's going to use that for as He's building His kingdom. So we like to hear from folks what they perceive their talents and gifts are. Obviously, acting is one, but even as you're thinking of spiritual gifts and things that He gave you as a result of becoming a Christian, we'd like to hear that as well.
So I was recently talking to my husband about various things, hobbies, gifts, and so forth. And what I was saying is, and this is where I have a question about spiritual gifts versus talents. And I think, well, is it a gift or is it a talent? Because I feel like that there are talents that we develop and we progress because we are able to go to school with them or provide, nurture them and so forth, but that comes from external forces. And so when I think of spiritual gifts, definitely it's something that has been given by God.
Oh.
And I know it says talents and gifts, but that's just kind of how I look at it. And it's another way that I think it's, who likes talking about their gifts, And I want to say, well, I'm not very talented, but I do have some gifts that were given to me.
Sure.
So I can use that, right?
Right.
But I will say that regarding the spiritual gifts that we had when I was doing a retreat at church, you have all sorts of surveys that you take some time to make sure that, just so you get to know other people on the board or on the committee, and you all, learn about each other. And I did something through Strength Finders. It's a book that I've read, and it's quite extensive, like Myers-Briggs or something like that, but more of a spiritual slant, Enneagram and others. But there were the areas that came up. So we had this color-coded chart that it had everybody's talent, everybody's spiritual gifts laid right out there in front of everybody else. And some people were analytical, and others were, various gifts out there that just to me felt like it was, achiever and so forth.
Gotcha.
Mine were positivity, enthusiasm, woo. The heck, woo, and an activator, which was good, a communicator, but it made me feel like I sound like a cheerleader. Nothing's wrong with being a cheerleader.
Totally.
But I just felt like it diminished who I was. It's just like on this happy thing that goes around. But what was fascinating is I'm very close with our rector, and when I was saying, okay, I want to do over, I have more substance than this. I graduated with honors. I've done these
Oh my gosh,
things.
that is the Enneagram 3 in you, just like oozing out.
You need to feel worthy.
Yes.
So it was my rector who said, all right, Patty, do you have any idea what enthusiasm means? I said, well, it just means that you're excited about things. And then he told me that the Greek origin for it is theos, which is God. And that enthusiasm comes from the Greek origin of being possessed by or being inspired by God.
Oh.
I want that one.
Oh, I know. So what is my God? I'm enthusiastic.
Yay!
Well, and I wear it proudly.
That's
nice.
right.
But so that's at the core, and I always have been that. But I like that. I do like
That's
that
great.
inspired by God.
Yeah.
And, recently, I would say that I do have an insatiable curiosity.
Yeah.
And especially as I get older, I'm in my mid-50s. I plan to live for another 48 to 50
Excellent.
years.
Wow.
That's what I'm working on.
Excellent.
Through listening to podcasts like yours and others that, would teach us on, how to live well.
Yeah.
How to live longer, but not just longer, but well. And
I will say you do support our podcast. She is one of the few people who actually texts me. It's like, I listen to your podcast.
Aww.
So thank you very much for doing that. It's a huge encouragement every time. So.
Well, I do a lot of driving, and a lot of times I'll just go through my podcast. Well, I haven't heard that in a while.
I love
you guys
it.
were getting ready for this season.
Yep.
So I learned a lot.
I would add then encouragement as well to your gifts and your talents. I'm sure that goes hand in hand with enthusiasm, but just your ability to see others and see what they need and to be able to lift them up and encourage them. I'm so encouraged by you. So,
well,
thank you.
As I was reading, as we were preparing for this interview, I've done Strength Finders as well. And you and I only had one in common. That was Activator.
I can see that.
I need to do this Strength Finder.
Yes, you really do, because it's pretty cool. My colleague who we kind of ran our department together when we took this, he was woo, and everyone was like, "What is woo?
What is woo?
We got to figure this out." And he was woo. I mean, you look up.
Do you remember what woo is though?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because it sounds like woohoo, woo. But it actually is someone who enjoys meeting new people, breaking the ice, and getting to know them
and
really
engaging
well,
with them. Yeah, that's awesome.
So it's a big connection, empathy, and that type of thing. So that they need to have a better name than
they
woo
do. It's like they really. It's the last one. It starts with a W. Well, it's like just a random word we could think of. Woo.
Well, but it is a word that means like you woo people in.
Well, yes. I mean,
that's true.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I mean,
I knew that.
And
yeah, me too.
And he
totally
sorry, but he like you. He is that person. He literally goes across the state, and everyone thinks that they're his best friend.
Totally.
Oh well, I know him. We're closer than you and he are. Everybody wants to be Jason's best friend. So. Anyway.
Oh, Jason's totally a woo.
Yes,
that's so funny. Well,
so why not? Yeah, be best friends, right? I mean, why not?
Yes.
Right?
I 100% agree.
We're all equal. We're all brought to this world.
Yeah.
We're all here, and the more people that the more people I encounter, the more interesting I think that life is. The richer one is.
Absolutely.
So people get upset because not upset people. My family. I ask lots of questions, and that's the curious part of me,
and that's great.
Insatiable.
Just stop asking questions and just listen to the story.
But I need to know more. I need all the information and the data. That's so funny.
I'm kind of like that a little bit.
Yeah, I would say a little bit.
I need the big picture.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Well, so obviously, Amazing Gracie's coming out. What other projects are you working on?
Okay. So I love acronyms and different ways of thinking about things so I can remember them. So there is, I had an artist retreat about a year ago by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent a lot of time walking the beach and talking to God and listening to God, listening to podcasts, sometimes listening to God coming through podcasts. Mm-hmm. Trying to figure out where I am at this point in my life. I'm a new empty nester, and I feel like I've just begun. So, I want to encourage other people, and not just women, because there are men who may stay home with their children, and whoever is staying home with their children or whatever they're doing, or they have this life there. It's, lawyer or banker or whatever it may be for a certain period of time. And then now what?
Right.
And for those of us who have kids, it's like, now what? I've spent all this time. They were our first project. So knowing that acting, it comes and goes. Yes. It's out of our control.
Yep.
That there are other things we have to do to supplement. While we're waiting for those roles to come along.
Of course.
And so there are 5 areas of my life, if you want to hear them.
I would love to hear them.
Okay. And the acronym of this it's faith, because this is what I thought about my little retreat last year, was faith is the thread that runs through my life that is constant.
Yes.
And that's where I was trying to figure out is what is it that is the commonality of all of this. And it also helps me to remember every day what I'm supposed to be working on.
Yes.
Nice.
So F stands for family story. I'm working on a family story, and I will not go into it in too much detail because we'll be here until tomorrow morning. And people don't have time for that. But short story is I was adopted at 6 weeks old, and then I was raised by the most wonderful parents that anybody could ever have. I'm sure second to you, Diane.
I'm sure they were great. Yes.
Truly, like Mom and I have a very similar relationship. And I never remember when I was told I was adopted. It was just something I always knew, always felt comfortable. What I do remember is that I was always told that I was extremely special. And the reason why they wanted to put me up for adoption is because they loved me so much.
Yeah.
And they wanted me to have the best life possible. So instead of feeling neglected or not wanted as a child who was put up for adoption, I always felt like, oh, they love me so much that they
love me extra.
So anyway, I've always no hole in my heart or anything like that. But after having children, after having 3 boys, I had a dear church friend who died of colon cancer, and another friend who was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer. I just wanted my medical history.
Yeah.
And back then, I mean, we're talking late 1960s. They didn't have all of, they didn't share all of that. So, and things had changed because my biological mother was 16. So I just wanted medical history, and come to find out, it was years. It was probably 3 years of back and forth with the adoption counselor in Boston, but finally got the information, and come to find out, my biological mother, who was 16, the biological father, they ended up marrying each other 2 years later, and then they had 3 kids.
Oh,
which means I have 3
full siblings.
And their life was 180 degrees different from mine.
Yeah.
Let's just say that. Oh. And I've met them all. And there's one sister in particular where we're like twins.
Yeah.
She's my best friend now, and this all happened in 2009. So it's been 13 years, and we talk to each other almost every day.
Oh, I love that.
So there's just that. I have like a split screen in my. And I've talked to you about this, Sarah, but there's this movie. Maybe I don't know if it's a novel first or if it's a movie. There's something there, and I want us to keep talking about it because I don't know where it's going to go. But anyway, that's F. So that's the big family story that I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
We're writing things down. A is acting.
Yep.
Find an agent. This is the year to find that agent that I need to level up. I know I need to. So F-A, acting. I is an information gathering that I've been working on for the past 18 months of various things that I'm reading and podcasts and putting it together to do something with that.
Okay.
T is third chapter living.
Yes, we love that.
I had that domain, and I feel like I am not feel like it. I am in my 3rd chapter.
Yeah.
I think kind of in my mind, there are chapters. It's not second half of life. It's because there might be a 4th chapter.
Yeah.
There might be a 5th chapter.
Never know.
Who knows? But I do want to help people who find themselves from like 50 to 75 where they have so much to offer.
Yeah.
And don't know what to do and where to go.
Yeah.
And I don't have the answers, but it's funny you said encourage as an encourager. I feel like I have enough information that it can just relay through me, and I can help encourage people to go for their dream, which is what I did.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a risk. And then the H under faith is health and household. And that's self-explanatory. I got to keep my health up and keep the household together with family.
Yeah.
So,
that's awesome.
But those are the projects.
I was going to say earlier, I love that faith is your acronym, because earlier you were talking about, and there's just this thing about me where I just believe that everything's going to be okay. And that just everyone's so annoyed with me, but I don't know what that is. It's faith. That's 100% what it is, because I have that. That is one of my spiritual gifts, as well as faith, is just like, I just know that like someone who knows better is orchestrating it, and that's fine. Like there are people who aren't like that. There are people who have to have the answers to every question. I'm like, I just know that he is better than I am.
Right.
And like, that's okay. And he's got it.
Yeah.
So I do think, I was thinking that earlier, and then you brought in that word, and I do want to name that for you, as I think you have a massive talent and or spiritual gift of faith. And I can just see that, just knowing that like, God's got it. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
just
totally.
that he's always going to work it all out for his glory and our joy. So I believe that.
And, Sarah and Diane, it doesn't mean that one always has it.
Nope.
Right. So
Totally.
I grew up going to church every Sunday and, said the Lord's Prayer. And I remember coming home as a teenager sometimes and praying to God that mom and dad weren't there, or, just there are certain things that you just like, oh no. But it was still always something there.
Yeah.
And I knew that I felt like a closeness to God, this something that was always a thread, that was always underlying. But after the boys were born, there were times where you can't help but start spinning and worrying. And there was a particular time, I haven't said this to you before, but I remember one of my boys, it was just, there was some, he was a teenager and there might've been some bullying involved, but he was being bullied. There were a number of things that were happening that I get a call from a teacher because one of the kids didn't turn in something. And it was just, all of a sudden it was so heavy.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling cold and shaking. And it was a panic attack, but I was out of control. And I remember laying down on my couch thinking, breathe, what is this that I'm feeling? And I went for a walk and came back, and it took me all this time, and I started praying. And there are people in the various church groups where we may share a situation like that. We may share an experience, and they don't get it.
Yeah.
And I never ever want somebody to feel like, oh, well, God works for you. God talks to you, but not me.
Yeah.
That we don't know the time and the place or when we're going to be touched in such a deep way, but that's where faith comes in.
Yes.
And when people, I think, finally just, instead of the obsessive worrying that happens, that can easily happen as a mother, as a loved one, as a friend, as anything, when you finally let go of that worry and obsession and lots of times in my prayers, I just picture like my babies. I picture my husband. I picture him, and I don't have the words because I don't know what God needs to do in my life and in their lives to help them. So I just picture them and I hold them up.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's beautiful.
But it can happen for anybody. It's not just like, oh, we're special.
Right.
I don't
totally.
ever want it. Yeah. I feel strongly about that, is that it's a release, and it's just once you start surrendering.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
Amen.
So something that we started doing last season that we're bringing back this year is we're asking our guests if there was one thing that they could share to folks about Jesus, what would it be?
Jesus is all-inclusive.
He is.
Inclusivity is what I would say.
Yeah.
Is that I don't know a person on this earth that would go up to Jesus and say, man, I think you're cool. I want to follow you. I want to learn what you know. I want to live like you. I can't imagine my Jesus turning away from that.
Absolutely.
So I would say inclusivity.
I love that. And I think that's so important. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it really paints a very beautiful picture.
Oh, absolutely.
Loving. Well, think about, who dined with him?
Yeah.
You know, all of the sinners and some various people from saints to sinners.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely.
I never knew. And any of the stories that I've ever heard, I've never known a closed door.
Absolutely.
Well, so when we were going back and forth, you had mentioned that you have that one of the things that we could be talking about, you're prompting us, is this path or memory that you have when you encountered God kind of in an entirely different way than you had before. Can you share that with us?
Sure. The childhood one or the adult one, do you think? Or both. I guess, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So there are two distinct moments that I remember in my life that I feel were very God-centered and that came out of the blue. I was probably third or fourth grade. I remember sitting on my bed, looking out the window over at the Jenkins house and just having this feeling that there was something so much bigger and better out there that was a part of me and I didn't know what it was. I just had this sense come over my body of the world is so big and I'm a part of it in some very special way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at the time, I don't know if it was if I knew, oh, that must be God.
Oh, right.
But I knew it was something very deep in my heart and soul. And I will never forget at that such a young age thinking there's something big and beautiful out there and I'm a part of it. And I think that's God's world.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Then I was probably in my early 30s. I was at the beach. We share a house at the beach with a family now. It's at the same beach. Beautiful beach. It's Debadoo. It's a beautiful, gorgeous beach between Georgetown, South Carolina, and Pawleys, South Carolina, Pawleys Island. Anyway, I was in my early 30s. We've been going for a number of years. And the two boys, my youngest wasn't born at the time, but they were finally down for a nap. And I had some time out on the porch. And I remember, being in the chaise lounge because I do love the sun.
Yes.
That's why I have so many wrinkles.
No.
I do love that vitamin D. So I was, looking through magazines and just relaxing and closed my eyes and just, whew. And maybe a couple minutes went by and I opened my eyes and I just said, I'm ready, God. I'm ready. I don't know what that meant. What? Ready for what? And I remember thinking, I'm ready to die. I'm ready for a diagnosis. I'm ready. What am I ready? I'm ready for my kids, something to happen. What am I ready for? And it was scary.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
And years went by where I thought about that moment and I kept it to myself for quite a while because I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to freak anybody out,
Sure.
But I think, and it was that from that moment, right around that moment on, where I did start doing a lot more morning contemplative prayer, centering prayer, more devotion than I ever had before.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that the words came through saying, I'm ready for this. I'm ready to be a child of God the way I'm supposed to be this child of God. I'm still trying to figure it out.
Wow.
I'm still trying to figure out what it is that I'm created to do and to be. And I want to be that so badly.
Yeah.
But that I'm ready, God, I'm ready was it was scary and beautiful and wild all at the same time. And since then, there are little God winks and you're just hiking in the woods and I overcome with emotion and tears because our creation is so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Just overwhelming sometimes.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I mean,
That is very
scary.
cool.
Yes. But I think sometimes maybe he also does those things to let us know that like he's always there and he's always ready.
Yeah, he is.
For us.
And that's right.
Yeah.
That's so interesting, Sarah, because I said, of course, he's always been there.
Yeah. He's always been ready for you.
You know, when I was younger, I always thought it would be so helpful if God would just come down and tell me what he wants me to do. Yeah, that would be so helpful. And then the more I've studied Scripture, it's always terrifying when an angel or God or, you know, a fiery bush. And I've decided I don't want that.
I'm good. I'm good with you up there in the clouds.
Still small voice. Give me the still small voice.
I tell you what, I'm not ready to share it on the podcast yet. Maybe someday, but I'll share it with Patty sometime off camera. But you've heard this, but there was one instance in this house where I was praying out loud. It was like it was an exercise that my small group was doing. I'll say what happened, but I just won't say what I was praying about. But I was praying out loud, and I said something about how I think God must feel about this situation, and the lights turned off. Just in my room, not in the house. They turned off, then they turned back on, and I almost died. I was like, I was like paralyzed. I was totally terrified, paralyzed. I was totally paralyzed, and like I wasn't breathing. And I was like, did that just happen? And
dare you tell me how I feel?
I know. Well, and so I left the room and I asked Nick. He was literally next door, and I was like, did your lights just flicker? And he was like, nope. I'm telling you. And I said, what I had said was, God, I bet you're really sad about this. And the lights turned off. And it just was like this reassuring moment that like he was with me in my sorrow about the situation, and that like, yeah, he was sad with me. And like, it just was this really beautiful moment, but I was terrified. Oh my gosh. I've never been scared in my whole life.
Right.
Anyway. And there wasn't even a voice, like an audible. He just turned the light off, and I was like, all right, I'm going to keep talking to you, but please just don't do that again.
Well, I want you to do it. I have stopped asking for that.
Oh my gosh. Well, this has been awesome. So tell us really quick, and our listeners, how they can follow you, watch your movies, and get in touch with you.
Yeah. So I have an Instagram that I'm hot and cold on social media.
Yep. I'm with you.
It's hard. It is hard. So I post, and I often post about the movies that are coming up. Yep. So definitely on Instagram, I have an IMDb link and the movies. Yep. Do I say all the movies that I've been in, or do you just?
I can put them. I'll make links and stuff.
Yeah. So you can say it's a public. So follow me. I'd love to get to know anybody out there who wants to talk and chat. And so Instagram and Facebook. So Instagram is, I think, Lambert.Patty. Okay. Yep. Facebook, I think, is Patty.Lambert.
Yep.
IMDb, you just look up Patty Lambert, and I'm the one with the dark hair. Look like this. And I have a YouTube channel, but it just has like videos and trailers and clips up for my movie.
Okay.
So this third chapter, Living, that I'm one day going to expound upon and put out there into the world. Yes. It will be a website. So this is the year. I put a lot of things out there right now.
I love that.
My website. But that's not out there yet.
Okay.
So Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and IMDb.
Very cool. Patty, I love you so much. You are such a dear friend, and I'm so grateful that you took your time to do this. I can't wait to see you soon, and I can't wait for everyone to see our amazing chemistry, even though we're mad at each other for like the whole thing. I'm just so excited, and I can't wait, and you're just such a blessing to me, and so thank you so much for your friendship and also for being here today.
Well, thank you, Sarah, and thank you for trusting me with your work.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I appreciate you giving me the chance.
Oh my gosh.
I'm so glad that we were able to be
Thanks for doing it well.
And Diane, you've done a darn good job over here.
That's nice.
Very sweet. I would have to agree on this one. Actually, God did a good job.
God did a good job.
It was in spite of me, I think.
Absolutely. All the glory. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Well, you were a great vessel.
There you go.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we love you, and we will talk to you later.
Love you too. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
This podcast was made possible through generous listeners and friends like you, and we are so very grateful to all of our supporters. If you would like to sponsor an episode of The Collaboration Conversation, head over to thecollaborationconversation.org and click Sponsor an Episode.
For more information on Project Brickworks, visit us online at projectbrickworks.org. Subscribe to our newsletter or text BRICK to 55498 to get the latest news and updates. We love you all. Be blessed, and we'll see you next time.